From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Well, we're really excited to have Derek Anderson here with us this evening. July 1974, born in Louisville, Kentucky, Derek Anderson grew up under some really difficult circumstances. I think a lot of us have hard times growing up, this and that obstacle we have to overcome. Derek really had to see his family fall apart and grew up in some tough circumstances, which I'm not going to go into at any length. I'll leave that up to him. But his isn't really a tale of woe. It's a tale of believing in yourself and keeping on going and making faith with the people who have faith in you. And a lot of times he'd come home and the electricity would be off, and many nights he'd be sleeping in the park bench, but he always kept believing in himself. And eventually it paid off, and he had a scholarship to Ohio State University, transferred to the University of Kentucky, where they won national championship. He was the 13th pick in the first round of the NBA draft by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Had a great 10-year career in the NBA, averaged 12 points a game. He went on to win a national championship with the NBA. But he did a lot of other things as well. He's a great success in business. But the Derek Anderson Foundation showed that he really didn't forget where he came from. And there are a lot of people out there who need help. And Derek has done a lot of good work in that regard. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Derek Anderson.
Is this mic working? Is that off? Sound like three people talking. How you guys doing? Good. You guys can have questions when you're done, when I'm done, because a lot of people, it's one thing to say you come from hard upbringings and whatnot, but the difference in what I did in my book was to show you how to get out of that situation. No matter what race, religion that you may believe in yourself, there's only one common goal that you have to do is believe in yourself. And self-education is the biggest thing that I learned as a child. So when I lived in Flint, Michigan until I was 10, and everything went bad. So my dad, who's 6'9", he moved me and my mother, and we back to Louisville, Kentucky. I came home from school. His best friend of all his life, they went to Vietnam and wore everything together. His friend, we'll call him Kane. He literally held me outside where my father and mother had an argument, had a big fight inside of an apartment. So I sat outside and just listening to him. All of a sudden, I heard 2 gunshots go off, boom, boom. My dad walks out. He's holding his arm. Mom tried to shoot him. Came back in the house. I saw my mom had been beaten up really bad. A couple weeks later, I come home from a Friday from school, and the door was locked. She had left. So I stayed outside in the hallway the entire night. I woke up the next morning starving. The birds are chirping, it wakes you up. So I get up, I go to Winn-Dixie. I was always taught to be polite and be respectful to people. So I went to Winn-Dixie, and I started asking people to carry their bags. But the thing about it was, I asked the lady, I said, can I carry your bags for 10 cents? Actually, I just asked, can I carry your bags to your car? So I did it. She said, you're so sweet, and she just pulled off. So she didn't give me anything. So let me think about this. I said, well, I got to actually say what I want. Okay, now I got it. But I went up politely and said, can I carry your bags to the car for 5 or 10 cents? They said, sure. I stayed there almost all day long. Mind you, I haven't eaten. I got my first $3 in my life at the age of 11 years old. I just turned 11. I was like, yes, I got $3. So it's Kentucky Fried Chicken across the street. I said, I'm going to go over here and get me a nice meal. So I went and saw $2.95 for a 3-piece chicken and biscuit. This is the 80s. That's why the price is like that. So I said, wow, I'm going to get this. And I thought about it. I said, what if she doesn't come home again? I go back to Winn-Dixie. I get bread for 79 cents and bologna for 69 cents. Age of 11. I didn't need a degree to figure that out. I said, let me do this. I went back to the apartment, sat in the hallway, ate bread and bologna. I asked for water when the lady came home. I did that for the rest of the day. The next day, she didn't come home that night. She came home the next day. So I just taught to never disrespect your parents. I could have asked a bunch of questions. I could have been upset. At 11, I was taught to never disrespect my parents or elders. So a couple weeks go by again. She does it again. I don't see my mother for 10 years. Dad was gone. I stayed house to house. I used to carry a plastic bag with toothbrush and toothpaste to school so I could wash up. I'm going to tell my age real quick. Y'all remember Trend detergent? Anybody? I thought that was soap. I used to take cold baths in that just so I wouldn't be the stinky kid at school. And I washed my clothes in a tub of cold water. No heat, no electricity. I stayed house to house people's. I cleaned up. I took people's trash out. I went to people's houses being polite. You know, I didn't sell one drugs. I never drank, never smoked, never stole anything. All I did was be polite to people, and people actually helped me. I was actually getting to stay in people's houses. I would fake fall asleep, you know, so I wouldn't have to go anywhere. I'd be like, "You going home?" You know, I'd act like I was still asleep. But actually, a few years of that, and I stayed in a friend of mine's house, and then I wound up meeting a high school girlfriend. I was turned 14, and she was 17. Her mother let me spend the night over her house, and then she let me stay. I was like, cool. Then all of a sudden, I get some different news, and she tells me she's pregnant. So I'm 14 and still a child, and she tells me she's pregnant. So I stayed with her the entire year. Then the next year when I'm about to turn 15, she has the baby, and her and her mother go out, and they wind up getting arrested for shoplifting. Yeah, that's what I said. Another stressful situation. I have a brand new child, nowhere to go. So I went back to my old neighborhood next door to the lady who was still there, and I asked her for some help. She gave me a mattress, candle, and a couple pots. So I went and stayed in that next door apartment. No heat, no electricity. It was still empty. And I wound up staying there for 2 months. But I went to school. I let the lady keep him while my son was there. I wound up coming and playing basketball. And then I came home at 4:30. I worked at a candy store. And I went and got a candy store job. So at 4:30 to 8, I worked there. I came home, paid the lady $2 for watching my son. And then I brought my son back over there. At the age of 15. Never went to the streets. Never drank, never smoked nothing, never sold nothing. Never stole anything. All I did was continue to get a job. Had to do that until she got out of jail. I do it again the next year when she gets in trouble, and this time I had to get a second job, and I had to go work at a newspaper route on the weekends. So I kept continually finding a job and kept playing basketball and kept going to school. Not one day that I missed because I needed food because I didn't have nowhere to eat, so I had to go to school to eat. And then at the age of 16, right after I turned 16, my father's best friend that I told you about earlier, called Kane, he tried to rob and kill. I ended up stabbing my sister 17 times. It was my father's first child. He went over to rob her, and he was on drugs, and he stabbed. This is my father's best friend since they were 7 years old. Went to the Vietnam War together, high school, everywhere. Be careful who you call your friend, because everybody's not your friend. If their habits continuously are different than yours, watch yourself. So my father's best friend killed him. Now, I hadn't seen my dad. He didn't even show up to the funeral. So 17, here I am, fighting to get custody of my son. Right when I turned 18, I graduated high school with a 3.7 GPA, class president, best basketball player in the country, in full custody of my son. No excuses. There are no excuses that I buy into any situation. This was the 80s. It was really tough then. Now you guys can go get a job just online. I didn't have that privilege. I had to find a job just walking around, shoveling snow, carrying trash, doing everything in a respectful way so I could get help. I even had to sleep in my high school gymnasium because I had nowhere to go on Saturdays. And we had practice. The janitor used to leave the door unlocked, leave the lights on, the curtains, and I used to sneak in. Y'all remember the little vending machines? My arms were so skinny, I could stick I had to pay the school back, of course, but I used to take a Snicker out of there. And then I told my janitor what I did, and he was like, "Son, don't you ever steal." And I said, "Well, I won't give it back to him." And he taught me a valuable lesson. He said, if you steal something now, people will think you steal the rest of your life. It's a stereotype. And I thought about it. I said, you're right. That gym is named after me now, and I gave him $5,000. So when I got older, I went to the NBA. Of course, some people know the story about he just said I went to the NBA. But my senior year, I wound up tearing my second ACL up. I had no more eligibility. I tore it my sophomore year, and then I tore it again my senior year. I had no more eligibility. So I only played 18 games. So I wound up going and working out every day. I was on that same schedule I was when I was a child. 6 in the morning I worked out. 8 o'clock I went to class, 12 o'clock I had lunch, 2 o'clock I worked out and had study hall 6 to 8. Schedule. That's what I did in college. That was it. No partying, no nothing. I had a goal to get to. So I go to Nike Town after I left college, and I walk in and I see Phil Knight sitting there. He's the owner of Nike. I speak to him, shake his hand, then I look over to my left, and here is Michael Jordan. Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, you know, I'm trying to be cool. I'm like, he says, hey, DA. And I was like, Michael Jordan knows my name. That's all right. And the first thing he said, I want you to be the first person to wear my brand shoe. I was like, really? And I was shocked. But then he told me, you know why? And I'm like, not a clue. He said, the way you faced adversity proved to me that you're going to be somebody to reckon with. He said the reason, he had someone watch me for 10 days. He said the guy showed, he said every day I went to work out, I had a positive attitude. He said I didn't miss class, and I didn't have a problem with not showing up on time. He had somebody watch me. That's how he knew that I was still working hard, because I just tore 2 ACLs before the NBA. So he told me he gave me my first shoe deal. And the reason he signed me wasn't because he said I could play or I could dunk on people or I could shoot basketball. He said the way I faced adversity. He said, that's why I'm going to make you the first person signed. Now I have a lifelong contract with the Jordan brand. Had nothing to do with sports. Had everything to do with my character. And that's the difference in what we have, is my character has been consistent throughout all the trials that I've been through. So I decided to do something bigger. Years later, I go find my parents. I go looking for them. Here I am, a millionaire. I got all the money, fame, whatever you call it. I had all of that. But then I wound up going looking for my parents 24 years later. Something just hit me. Just said, you know what? I went to church and I was like, there's something missing. You can't fulfill yourself with money. It was something that was missing. And I said, let me go find my parents. I went looking for my dad. Here I am riding through the neighborhood and people saying, yeah, this guy says he's your dad. He looks like you, but I don't think this is your dad if he ain't with you, you know. It was kind of made sense. You know, I'm all over TV, and my dad never came to a game, never looked for me. So I wound up finding this guy. I walk up to him, and he's like, how are you, this and that. Never said he was sorry, didn't ask for it. I just said, you know, are you okay? And he told me his situation, his lifestyle wasn't conducive of being around me, and this and that. And I told him, I don't care about your lifestyle. All I cared about was your love. A simple conversation that we had wasn't based upon anger, wasn't based upon resentment, wasn't based upon what are you going to do for me. It was, why are you not showing me love? That's all a child wants from you. So we had a conversation. I took him to a birthday party of mine. I had a little going party, dressed him up. He's trying to talk to little young girls. So I was like, this is not how our relationship's going to start. But he wound up telling me a few days later he had cancer. 10 months later, I won a championship with Miami Heat 2006. A few weeks later, he passed away. Every single day I woke up, I was trying to figure out what makes life go like this. Why am I getting blessed with one thing and it seemed like something else is getting taken away? You try to figure these things out, and then you realize it's a process. The process is you accepting who you are. Not about other people. Has nothing to do with other people. Has everything to do with you. So I become Superman, and I go looking for my mother. Yeah, tell me the stress. I go looking for my mother, and they tell me, yeah, this lady says she's your mom. Then she calls to my office and says, yeah, I'm Derek's mom. Okay, I go looking for her. I find her. She's in the alley sitting on a little stool or whatever. She's been drinking. So I go clean her up. I was sitting there for 2 days. I had people bring me food because I didn't want to lose her either. So sat in the rehab for 2 straight days. If you want to go somewhere where you really know what struggles are, go to a rehab center. Those are people who are fighting every single day to be better. It gives you a whole different perspective on what life's about. Not people who don't have something, a cell phone or some Jordans. You know, that's not what their process is. Their process is finding themselves, and that's a process that I admire. So I sat in there with her for 2 days, and the longest 2 days of my life. And she finally gets out. I take her to my house, and I live way out. I live way out. And somehow I came home, and she was gone. I was like, how in the heck did she get out of here? You know, I'm just like, but she went to her old familiar ground. So a couple months go by, and I try to help her. So we struggle going back and forth, rehab centers, everywhere else. I send her somewhere. And she finally gets straight. She finally gets clean. 28 years later after that, well, from that time that she abandoned me, we had Christmas dinner. And she cooked. wasn't because she looked for me for money. She looked for love. And if you have that, you got to learn to forgive people. That was the toughest lesson I'd ever been taught, is to forgive two people who left you to love you. So my situation was, I had to realize, again, what was the most important thing about me was my self-education of myself. That was the bottom line. I said, I got to figure out how am I going to get out of this situation and make them better. So after all these years, I found out every single day that I woke up, I had to educate myself. It wasn't about sports. That was just a means that I had no other place to go to. He gave me an avenue to use. So no matter what race, religion, whatever you believe in, if you're not self-educated, you will forever lose. Forever. I tell some of these young kids, I say, you know who the richest people are in the world? They be like, oh, LeBron James and Michael Jordan. I said the richest people in the world are the most educated people in the world. If you look at it, go look at the history of our lives, the most richest people in the world are the most educated people because they have something that they can never run out of. You know how many people to go broke? A lot of people. And I mean selfish people. I remember growing up at 16, I was walking across the street, and I saw 3 guys walking to me. And I had my bread and bologna as usual. And I'm walking towards them, and I'm looking, I said, I know these guys are up to no good. And I just said, I'm going to walk past them. I walked past them thinking like, yes, I made it. All of a sudden, I get hit in the back of the head. Boop. They jump me and take my bread and bologna. So I see this guy a few years later. Now I'm 6'6". He's the same height we were then. So it's a different story when I walked up to him. Yeah, I walked up to him, and he kind of leaned back like, okay, here we go. And I said, I thought about it. I said, no, I'm good now. And I said, man, I understand we was kids. I forgave you what you did, but you should never do that again. He said, you're right, man. You're absolutely right. So now he's on Facebook saying, hey, follow Derek Anderson. Go buy his book. He's a great guy, you know. I'm thinking, you baloney thief. Shouldn't say nothing. But I changed anger into something positive. Now he's supporting me. Instead of him suing me for fighting, now he's supporting me and selling books for me. You see the difference in what you do when you self-educate yourself? Has nothing to do with me playing basketball. Had everything to do with my self-conduction. And that's the thing that I've guaranteed that I told people in my life, that I'm going to be consistent with one thing, and that's my character. No matter what you do, I can't try to get out of my character. I've gotten out of character before. But if you're able to control that more times than not, you're able to survive. And that's what life's about. Everything that you do is about adaptation. If you can adapt to everything, like we've adapted to gas being 99 cents to $4, it's called adapting. It's not making excuses, not complaining, it's not doing all those things. You have to find that. And the first thing you do is you have to stop being selfish. First thing you have to do is stop being selfish. I had a teammate of mine, and some people know Coach Patino was my coach. We had a teammate of mine, and he had 29 points. We had 0 assists. So coach says, hey, I'm going to put you back in the game, and I want you to come, and we're going to make this play, and you bounce it, and you get you an assist so you don't look selfish. He comes down. The first shot he does, he pulls up a three-pointer and just jacks it up there. So everybody's looking like, what are you doing? Because he comes to the side with Coach. Coach says, what are you doing? I told you to pass it. He said, yeah, Coach, but I ain't never had 30 points before either. It's like, come on, you cannot be that selfish. You know, you start to think like what matters most in life. You can't be selfish. I could have took my money, ignored my family, ignored everybody. But when you give people the opportunity to see who you are as a person, they'll help you. So the first thing, you can't be selfish. The second thing you have to do is forgive everybody. Don't mean you have to like them. Don't mean you have to hang around them. Because I've forgiven people that I really do not like. But I just choose to do that for me. Now I can go to sleep, no stress, not worrying about if they like me. You know, they're stressed now like he probably don't even like me. So they're up 3 or 4 in the morning like, God, I don't know if I should say something. But I'm sound asleep because I already forgave them. If you're able to forgive somebody, you're able to free yourself. Nothing that you talk about right now is about your money right now. Nothing about, I don't want to be famous. I want to be effective. That's the biggest difference in me and the rest of these celebrities. You ever seen some of the athletes who go broke? And then all of a sudden you wonder why? And we always go back to what? Selfishness. That's it. And then you say the next thing you see is their character. Because it always goes hand in hand. When you're selfish, your character's bad. When your character's bad, you become selfish. And that's the difference. I try to keep my character consistent. What I'm doing is being positive every single day. And the third thing that you have to do when you do everything else in life is you have to love. If you love each other, no matter what you do, you can survive anything. You can survive anything that you want to do. If I gave a letter right now to one person, and I took the letter back and just wrote 2 sentences, and I told everybody to repeat what I said, when it get back all the way around here, you think it'll be the same? It's called rumors. And 99% of rumors are all false. The 1% is you got 3 people. You got the truth, you got their truth, and then you got the real truth. So every single time that you hear something, do not let that change who you are. Because I heard people making fun of me every day. They were like, oh, he's wearing the same clothes. I'm like, you act like I have a choice. But I took care of myself because I worked hard. Everything that I've gotten, I've earned. I don't want a handout. I don't want you to hand me out. I want you to give me an opportunity. I want you to teach me knowledge. I want you to teach me something. When I go sit in meetings, I met with Bill Gates and Paul Allen when I was a Portland Trailblazer. I met with some of the richest people in the world. And the first thing I hear them say is, first thing they come out of their mouth, how's everybody doing? I went to some other meetings, and everybody's just like, well, let's get down to business. So immediately you see the person doesn't care about you as a person. You obviously know that their intent is not about you. It's about a dollar sign. And I'm not trying to trick you out of this. I understand money helps you. But if I can make it from 11 years old being abandoned, there's no way that a grown man can't take care of his child. If I'm able to survive at 14 with a child, you can't tell me you're 24, 34, 44 without even having a conversation with that child. You don't have to always be there, but if they know that you're there, they know that you love them, that is the difference that you have. Now my son is 26 years old, and I'm 41. And he tell everybody I'm his brother. I'm like, no, don't. I don't want to hear that. I'm your dad. He's walking around like, well, I look older than you. That's your fault. Blame your granddad or somebody. I don't know. But the thing about it is now that I have him, he's going to school. He's going to graduate Western Kentucky next year. And his process was the same as mine. You had to find his own way. Don't try to make someone be like you. You give them a chance to be who they are. And now all of a sudden you give them the tools they need and it's opportunities. My son telling me, I don't want to take out the trash. I'm like, well, you're going to take out the trash if you want a new pair of shoes, a phone. He's like, nothing wrong. I had a room full of shoes, and he's always come in and be like, Dad, I want to get some phone. I want to get a new phone. How would I got to do? I said, you got to clean something up. He said, everything's clean. So I went in my room and just started kicking my shoes all around. I said, then clean that up. He's like, you just messed that up. Well, that's life. How many times has life then kicked us around and we still got to get up and clean ourselves off? And it teaches him a lesson. I made him make his bed up every day. And then I had a DVD. It was a biblical DVD. I said, make him go to sleep to it. He got out, and he got older, and he's got the DVD now. I said, where's that DVD at? He said, man, that thing's scratched up. He said, you played it so much, it's messed up. He orders me the same DVD and tells me to listen to it. You see how the impact that we have later still comes around? So remember what you're teaching your kids right now. It will be remembered. And understand that everything that we do in life has these simple things to remember. Don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. Always forgive. The bottom line, what you have to do in surviving life is love. If you can put those 3 things into character, I don't care what you've been through, you're going to survive. You will have enough stamina to survive any situation. I've never drank, never smoked, never sold drugs, never done drugs. I've never had a Coke or Pepsi in my life because I couldn't afford it when I was younger. But these simple things, it's like bad habits. Good habits are hard to break too. When you ever do something continuously, you start to think like, well, man, I got a habit. This is what I'm going to keep doing. So every single day, I did that. I got to the NBA, and how I was working at the candy store, you know, the bottled waters in the hotel, like $4 for like this size. Yeah, I went and got a 12-case bottle for $2.99, and I'm selling it to my teammates for $2. See? See what you remember when you're younger? It always comes back and helps you, or it hurts you. I did that every single day. The biggest compliment I got was when I walked on the bus. We had the Hurricane Katrina in Houston, and I walked on a bus, and it was all the celebrities, all the other athletes, and one guy yells out, "Hey, DA, say a prayer for us." And a couple guys started giggling and laughing. I said, if that's what you know me for, I'm good. When you walk in a room and the first thing they say to you is something positive, whether it's joking or not, you obviously have left a legacy with them. First time I stepped on the bus, he said, DA, say a prayer for us. So what does he know that I believe in? No secret. I'm not negotiating what my faith is. There's none of that. And I'm not telling anyone to do that. But if you walk in it, you don't have to talk about it. When I walked in faith, when I was 11, every single day he found a way of saying, I'm going to give you something more. I still got the same basketball that I found when I was 14. It's in my storage, and it's all dented up. It's messed up, but I still have that same basketball. I went out to the court, 14 years old, slept outside, woke up. I saw the basketball there. I picked it up, took it home. Is that stealing? I don't know if it was. I'd pay somebody back, but I don't think it was stealing. He left it, so. But I kept that same basketball. Had no air in it. Every single day, I shot the basketball, and then when I finally got a basketball, this is what I said when and I wound up shooting free throws really good. I bounced one for my mother, one for my father, and one for me to survive. I shot 90% from the free throw line. Focus, repetition, everything that I said I was going to do, I did it. Everything that I put in my mind when I woke up, I have to be better today than I was yesterday. I wound up winning 2 middle school championships, high school, district, college championship, junior Olympics, and I was the MVP, and an NBA championship. I'm one of 13 people in the world who was abandoned. No excuses. No reason to give up. None. This is what we do in society. We give up, and we give up on people. Don't give up on each other. Once you start pulling people around, that's how you survive. I wound up going to Cleveland my rookie year. I got drafted. I walked past a gentleman, and I spoke to him. He said, do I know you? I said, no, I'm from Kentucky. We just supposed to speak, so, you get in trouble if you don't. He said, okay, well, let's have lunch. I want to talk to you. I think I might want to interest you in something. So I spoke to the guy, met him the next day, and he wound up telling me he's the owner of a Switzerland bank. Yeah, that's what I said. Jackpot. That's exactly what I said. I said, okay. He wound up investing money, and he doubled my money over 14 years. From me speaking to this gentleman. He didn't know nothing about me. I didn't know nothing about him. All I did was speak to this guy. You know how many kids walk around like this? There's impossible that you could see the finish line with your head down. Every single day I had my head up, smiling with the same clothes on. Wore a size 11. I was in a size 13. I didn't care, 2 pairs of socks. I just need to get to where I need to get to and finish my job. There's nothing different that you've gone through as a child, as an adult. Everyone in here could write a book. Does everybody here think they can write a book of all the stuff you done been through? You should write your book by sharing that with somebody. I'm not the only person who went through hard times, but you have to change your mindset of how you see yourself. Self-educate yourself to be better. No selfishness, forgive, and you love. You cannot lose with those things. It's impossible. The world, the universe gets out of your way when you do that. Everything about you becomes better because you've chose to do that. So I'm going to end this with this. I wound up having Christmas dinner with my mother. We wound up talking. She wound up telling me who I am, find out what I like. She used to tell me I used to jump off the bed all the time, and I thought that was the reason why I jumped high, but then she said I missed the bed a lot, so it's probably why. That's why I was probably smart, because I hit my head so much. But she wound up telling me a lot about myself. And she said the one thing about you when you were a baby was no matter what, you smiled. I was like, even when I was hungry? She said, even when you was hungry. She said, I smiled every single day. I said, what do you think that is? She said, it's called favor. She said, you had something bigger than what you went through. Everybody in here has something bigger than what you're going through. So understand, when you read stamina, understand everything about stamina is about building you. It has nothing about my tragedies or all the hardships. It has every situation about getting out of them. Some of these athletes be like, well, man, I grew up in hard times. I'm from the projects. Man, we all from there. Tell me how to get out of here. Tell me how to treat other people so I can get out of here. That's what I need you to do. So for me is, when I talk to my mother every single day that we were having conversations, all she told me was, when you have favor on your life, you accepted that purpose. She said, once you accepted it, everything else happened. So if you don't accept what you keep getting told to do, don't expect things to happen for you. So I remember everything that my mother just told me a few years ago, and that's the reason why I wrote this book. She said, accepting what you're supposed to do will be the reason why you succeed in everything that you do. So remember this, when everybody goes home today, call somebody. You can block your number, but call somebody and forgive them. Just forgive somebody that you haven't spoke to in years. You might not like them, and you don't have to give them your number, but call them and forgive them. Fix yourself. Because the one thing this world was built on was love. And that's what we'll die from if we don't. So I want to thank you guys for listening. God bless you. Anybody have any questions? I'm sorry. Oh, thank you.
Hello, Derek.
How are
hear
you,
me?
sir?
Hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm from River Rouge, Michigan. That's near Flint.
Yes, it is.
Great basketball area.
Yeah.
Anyways, great story.
Thank you.
But two-part, a little different. Are those both your championship rings?
Yeah, this is Kentucky. This one means more, but this is my NBA one. I had it.
Also, what do you think about the one and done, especially out of Kentucky?
I don't think I understand what he's doing. I don't agree with it because, for one, you're giving our kids a false sense of reality. What happens when he goes back to school? He's 7. I got to know some 7-footers who don't have any degrees. They have no education. They haven't learned anything. And I think that you need to get these kids back. And I think that's the thing. We shouldn't have one and done. We should maybe 21 years old, 2 or 3 years. I want better people than I want better basketball players. So that's what I've been looking forward to. I'll tell you a quick story, too. It's funny. My rookie year, I got an NBA contract. It was $250,000. It wound up being $127,000. And you remember, I just came from working at the candy store and newspaper, so I ain't never had a check. So I called my attorney, and, I got on the phone. I'm like, hey, man, somebody's taking all my money.
No.
And he's like, well, who? And I'm like, some guy named FICA. I don't know who this guy is.
That's a good one.
I don't know who this guy is. He took half of it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
did you hire him? And so you gotta, and that's the thing. If I wasn't educated in financial literacy, I would always be taken advantage of. So I had to learn that, and that way because I went to school. So I felt the opportunity to learn. But if you go one and done, you come from high school to that, you don't know nothing about that. So when someone takes your money, now who can you blame?
That's right.
Exactly, self. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Mr. Henderson. God bless you, first of all.
Thank you, ma'am.
You are an inspiration to a lot of people out here
Thank you.
that need hope.
Yes.
My question is, do you go back to the community? I know you can't hit all 50 states, but the youth of today need help. Do you
Yeah.
go back to the inner city?
I stay in there all the time. And the
Okay.
thing about it, people will try to affiliate you with the negativity.
Okay.
So you have to put yourself in a position to where you go in with a purpose. I wanted to go clean them up all by myself, but I
Okay.
realized I can't.
Right.
So I had to go in with the purpose of saying, what am I doing? I'm giving these guys jobs. I'm taking,
That's it.
I can't just tell a kid, hey, you go do straight, and then I walk away and never come back. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. It's impossible to heal. So I have to actually continue to build with them. I have to continue. So when we go back, I don't just leave.
Okay.
I don't care where I'm at. If I was in D.C. and I was speaking to them, you have to communicate with me. Keep talking to me. Call me. Text me. Something. So you and I have dialogue. I've saved a couple kids who were thinking about committing suicide
Okay.
because they had my cell number. They couldn't talk to their parents, the school teachers, or coaches, and they said, man, I think I'm going to kill myself. So I got them on the phone and said, come on. Let's me and you talk. Let's be men and talk about this. And they said, you right, man. It ain't worth it. I got a bigger life. Now one of them graduated from college, and the other one is the manager at a McDonald's,
That's
and he's been there like
beautiful.
11 years now.
Yeah.
So now he's, you know what I'm saying? So,
That's
I mean, these are
beautiful.
two people who are talking about killing themselves.
Right.
So you got to be
That's
thankful
beautiful.
that you,
Keep being an inspiration.
Yes, ma'am.
And God bless you.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, sir, young man.
You didn't exactly steal the basketball, because if somebody just left it there, it doesn't mean you stole it.
You sound like you've been in my position before. Was that your way of getting out of trouble? Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I feel better about myself now. Yes, ma'am.
What happened to the girl who had the baby? What happened to her?
She just got released out of jail maybe 4 months ago. Her and me and my son went and met her, and we took a picture together, the first picture we've ever had. So she just got out 4 months ago. I forgave her, and she's getting herself together. She's trying to write a book, so it's going to be interesting how she and I could have a conversation. But, you know, but she's doing really well now, and it's great to see her doing that. She's a great lady now. She's learning.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
This is more of a comment. I want to commend you for being here today.
Thank you, sir.
I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up in similar circumstances. You're looking at a guy today who turned 50 years old.
Happy birthday to you, young fella.
Thank you. And like you, I also wrote a book called Chasing the Eagle, and it sort of describes the trials and tribulations that I went through. So I would say you provided the best 50th gift I can ask for.
Well, thank you very much, man. Thank you. And what you've done is sharing your story. You've become immortal because someone will learn from that, and now they'll live that and to continue to build with someone else. So when you love and care for other people, you become immortal. Some people in here are going to die without helping each other, but you'll never die because you wrote that book. So congratulations to you, man. Live forever. Yes, ma'am.
You spoke of the power of believing in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I also believe there's a power in knowing that someone believes in you.
Yes.
And so many of our youth, they don't get that feeling that anyone believes in them in their schools or in anywhere they congregate, the government, the police. Did you have someone in your life who reinforced your belief in yourself by believing in you?
Yeah, God. If I get in trouble, do my parents go to jail? If I shot basketball, did they make any money? I'm not saying I didn't help. My Uncle George taught me to be a man of character. My high school coach taught me how to treat people. My social studies teacher taught me to keep my head up and not be ashamed of my situation. I've had all those positive affections and things. How many people have we told these kids are the same thing? If we stop paying these athletes millions and pay our school teachers millions, now we're going to win. So if I saw Mr. O'Connor ride up in the Benz, I'm going to be okay with going to school like that. But if I see a guy who no education and walking around with braids and golds and with his pants sagging making millions, what do you think I'm going to do? It's our situation, and we need to help change, but it's still that person who wants more to be more. So that's the difference. I mean, God gave us a vision, but there's a lot of people to help you along the way. But you have to take what you have from that knowledge they gave you to be better. So God is the first, and then you have to be yourself. Stop trying to be somebody else. I told you, I don't want to be famous. I want to be effective. That's the difference in why I survived. But yes, other people did help to answer your question. But it still has to change with me. Yes.
Hi. I know a lot of NBA players and ex-NBA players have basketball clinics. Do you have a writing clinic? Do you have a clinic on that level instead of basketball clinics?
Yes, I do. It's called Stamina Workshop, and I taught everyone people skills. You first walk in this gym, you speak to everybody. You keep your head up. Then I had a privilege where I said, how many people do their chores? I had people doing 50 chores. They were making up chores. But this is what I told them. This is in life. You go home and do chores. Look up on my social media. You'll see these kids did chores, and I gave them things in return. When you do the right thing, you get rewarded. And that's what they had to do. You had to be a good person first at my camp. When you left my camp, you were a better person than a basketball player because that's going to last longer. So when their parents came in, I said, you go and say thank you every single day that they came for paying for you to get in here. And now every day the parents are texting me. They're still cleaning their room. They're still saying thank you for stuff. And it's because we don't allow them. It's because we allow them to not do that. So at my camp, you have to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to thank you for what you said to the gentleman who said that he had written his story.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked about self-education,
Mm-hmm.
and I think one of the ways I internalize that is that what we need so much is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so hard, it seems like, for people all of us, to want to delve into. Like, there was some recent research that showed that people were asked to sit with their own thoughts and just quiet for 15
Mm-hmm.
minutes. they only had one distraction available to them, and that was to buzz themselves and give themselves a shock. And they were
Wow.
doing that rather than just being with themselves. And so when you were talking about love and God, I was thinking about how we can support each other. And it's scary to be by yourself with your thoughts because you're scared of how you're going to feel about yourself. But when we tell our stories, then maybe we don't have to feel so bad.
What makes you more accountable than anything when you say something? You have to live up to that. So if you say it, then you'll do it. But if you never say it, you can always hide those feelings. You can always suppress them. You can start lying and start believing that lie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if what you say becomes reality.
Yeah.
You ever heard that saying is never allow someone's opinion of you to become your reality? Right. That's their opinion. It's not yours. So speak what you want and it'll change who you are. But when you continue to speak about things, those things consume you. So to me, it doesn't change. You know, I think that guy's story, I think is great. And I think whatever you say has to be some validity in who you are. So self-education is self-motivation.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. I'm motivating others to find what they have in them. I'm not here to try to convince you to be somebody.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find out who you are. That means you have to speak it out. So when you and I have a conversation, tell me how you are. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you want to do. That way when it comes out, so they won't have to push that button.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me what you want because I'm finding out what you like. Because everybody likes something.
What you're saying is deep.
Yeah, well, I went through a lot to find out.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, last question? Okay.
Hi,
Hi, buddy.
how are you doing today?
How did I get to the NBA?
How do you get to the NBA?
Oh, I practice every day. I practice a lot. I practice when I didn't want to practice. So it was a long process, but it was fun. I just practiced. I worked hard every single day to get to the NBA.
Wow, that's so awesome.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yes, sir.
How you doing?
How are you, sir?
My question is, throughout your childhood journey, did you have any support from family members?
Yeah, my Uncle George, he came around. He came and helped me and supported me. And the biggest thing I found out was it takes a man to raise a man. Nothing wrong with the women. They do a great job because grandmothers, and they did awesome. But for us to stop making so many mistakes, we had to have men to teach us, sit down, let me talk to you, let me grab you, and let's be physical and talk to you. But when you start to allow yourself to not listen to those men in your life, you know right from wrong. You don't need someone 40 years old telling you what's right from wrong. You know what's right from wrong. You as a young man need to self-educate yourself on what I need to do to get better. So I think just listening to all the people around me made me actually better. But my Uncle George really shaped me into a man who I was today. Yes, sir.
What's going on, D?
How you doing?
Hey, I remember when we played at the DAC. I used to be on one part of the gym. Used to be on the other side. And your Uncle George used to train me a whole lot back in the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You just told my age. That's cool.
I turned to your age, so I just also want to say that I'm proud of you, man, for inspiring everybody and giving knowledge that you have been. You hear about all these NBA players that are retired, don't have any money, and then some of these kids that look for the limelight and just want something more. But, yeah, like I'm thankful, man. Appreciate
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you. If anybody want to talk to me, man, you can sit and talk. Is it one last question, or is it okay? Or okay, well, me and you talk after this. Me and you, man to man. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.